Hooray! Today is finally that day! Hooray! Here comes your without delay Q&A. How about that? All right. Anyways, thank you to everybody that took to Twitter and submitted your questions there. Can't possibly get to all of them. We're going to try and get to as many of them as I can, so let's go ahead and get started. Gio Knows asks, in a deep wide receiver class, are you disappointed the Bears only drafted Velus Jones Jr.? Yes. There's one thing, they reached a little bit for Velus Jones Jr. There's no question about that. But with the draft positioning, if they tried to wait until the 5th round to get him, he probably wasn't going to be there. Even at his age, being 24, he's going to be a 25-year-old rookie. Like, there's a size-speed combination that somebody was going to gamble on him either later in round 3, round 4, or the early part of round 5 before the Bears could get him. So I get why they took him where they did. I do agree that it's disappointing, to me at least, that they did not address the receiver position multiple times. That was kind of odd to me. Braden Smith 14, did Brady fumble in the tuck rule game? Yay, over 2 decades later, we're still dragging up old shit. According to the rules of the game at the time, no. And that's all that matters. Bear Down Rue, who is your daddy and what does he do? My daddy is the one whose seed ultimately spawned me. That's who he is. And what does he do? I think he's living somewhere in like Pennsylvania or something. I don't even fucking know. I haven't talked to him for several years now. So, I couldn't tell you. Shame on me. Dane the Funky Homo Sapien. Best villain in NBA and NFL history. I think the best villain in NBA history has to be the Bad Boys Pistons, right? Like, is there ever anybody that got more heel heat than the Bad Boys? And as far as NFL history, I'm going to go George Preston Marshall. This is a man that was obviously a great champion of the resegregation of the NFL from the 33 to 45 seasons. He was also the last owner, the last team to actually integrate with black players. That's a pretty big villain in NFL history in my eyes. And that's my first reaction. There are others I could certainly bring up, but he would be one of them. Mark_Whalen67 asks, QBs under the most pressure to win in 2022. You have a lot of them. A lot. Now, you may be asking as a Dolphins fan, is Tua one of those? Probably. You can look at most of the quarterbacks and say there's a tremendous pressure to win. Who would be some of the ones that would have the most pressure to win, though? It's probably going to be guys like Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Their teams gave up a shit ton to bring him in. All right? Derek Carr. Bringing in Devontae Adams. You got to compete in that division now with Russell Wilson and Mahomes and Herbert. There's a tremendous amount of pressure there on Derek Carr. Absolutely. You could look at other guys. You could say Aaron Rodgers. There's a tremendous pressure for him to win because he came back, team traded away Devontae Adams. Now what the hell do you do? Right? I mean, you got several of these guys. It's hard to differentiate. But some of these guys, like you could look at the Colts and say, how much pressure is there for Matt Ryan to win big? How much pressure is there in Tennessee? Especially now that A.J. Brown's been traded for Ryan Tannehill to win big. So a lot of these quarterbacks have a tremendous amount of pressure on them in 2022. It comes with the position and territory. Vin Los Penuso 91, how's life going? And do you look to go further in your studies? Life's going pretty well, thank you, Vinny. As far as further in my studies, I'll have my associate's degree by the end of the year. And then I'll be transferring to go get my bachelor's. So I'll have that completed either by the summer or the fall of 2024. I'm being pretty aggressive in the pursuit because I'm trying to make up for lost time. As far as after that, I might take a year off and then pursue the master's. I'm not sure yet. Trying to figure out just how far I'm going to be able to progress in my career and what level of education is required or going to be almost needed in order to get to that level. Now, it shouldn't be that way. It's fucking stupid to me. I could say that with a straight face now, especially because I am enrolled in school. I do have a 4.0 GPA. And I can still say that this shit I'm doing in school is largely not applicable to my career. That's dumb, even though I'm majoring in business admin. Couch NFL Commission, hotter seat this year, Chris Ballard or Frank Reich? I think it's both, but probably because of the level and position, Chris Ballard's seat is a little bit safer, so Frank Reich's is probably a little bit hotter, especially with the trade for Matt Ryan, although they should both be tied at the hip at this point. Shab Lagouche, how do you pick what sports to watch when several are on at the same time? obviously, if it's one of my teams playing, that's going to be the choice. If it's not, I would always veer towards football first, and then basketball, and then baseball. But some of that could also be determined on the matchups, the players. That's some of what I would do to help me determine what I'm going to watch. M. Bibermare, what does it mean for someone to be a true number one wide receiver? It means that they're an alpha. They're a big-time player at the position. I think you put in your tweet talking about, was Steve Smith Jr. a wide receiver one? Abso-fucking-lutely. Because that was an alpha dude. He was a go-to guy. To me, a number one wide receiver is the type of dude, a true number one wide receiver, not just he's the number one wide receiver on his team, but a true number one wide receiver is the type of dude that when you say his name, you don't even have to make the argument that he is. You know what I mean? You freaking know that that's an alpha dog at the wide receiver position. That's a true number one wide receiver. If you even have to make an argument, and you have to make the argument for too long or too hard, they're not a number one. It's one of those things that when you see it, you know it. Kirk from NotInHallOfFame.com, also known as Justin Trudeau's beau. I like the Saints draft this year. Your thoughts? I did not. Thought it was pretty stupid to do all that maneuvering, to give up all of that just to move up to get a wide receiver at the end of the day and throw the 2023 draft under the bus. That was dumb. That was really dumb. Now, could it work out? Maybe, but unlikely. I did not like their approach to the draft one bit. Spinner Media YT. Will players like Kyrie, Simmons, and John Wall's contracts hurt players in the next CBA? Probably not. Should give teams some pause about just how much money they want to pay guys at the end of these max contracts, but it's not going to change much, I don't think. Lord_JCW. Are there certain trends to show why some teams get the draft wrong year after year? There certainly are. And I would actually love to dig into this more and, really research what positions are they picking and where? What was the consensus in terms of the draft pick value relative to where they selected them? I'd like to actually research this more and do a future video on it. I think this is actually an interesting topic because you absolutely have some teams that consistently get the draft wrong. But that also spans across many regimes, several general managers, several head coaches. So what is the underlying root cause there? It'd be an interesting video to research and do. NCyple99, which player is under more pressure next season? Zion Williamson or Ben Simmons? I think it's Ben Simmons. I really do. Because assuming the Nets are going to have Durant and Kyrie back in the fold next year, the Nets are looking at Simmons being a guy that could help make them a championship contending team. Zion in New Orleans ain't doing that. So Simmons has to be the guy with more pressure on him. Coles Timms. Tips for losing my virginity. Real talk? Don't worry about it. I know it's easier said than done. But don't worry about it. Go buy you a freaking blow-up doll or something. Seriously. If you need to get your jollies off. Because I can tell you this much. Once sex starts getting involved in your life, and I realize our whole society and culture is very much about, you're not really a man if you don't do it. Fuck. You know how much headache I would have avoided in my life if I had just largely left women the fuck alone and I would tell I was truly ready and positioned to be a family man? Are you fucking kidding me right now? The lack of self-discipline, is stunning, and a lot of other people could say the same thing too. Sure, it's great, but it's probably also at the same time the most overrated fucking thing. So I'm not going to give any tips to lose it, because when it's meant to be, it'll be. And when it happens, it happens. Now, if you're going to sit there and say, well, I have a fear of, if you have a fear of introducing yourself to women, you need to get the fuck over that. You absolutely do. You need to get the fuck over that. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. What are you scared of? What's the worst thing you're going to say is no? Well, boo fucking who? Then what? If it's that important to you, and I tend to think of it this way. At the end of the day, we can come up with all the excuses and the bullshit in the world that we can, But if something truly means enough to us, we're going to find a way to get it done. So if it really means that much to you, I don't need to give you any tips because you're going to find a way to get it done. And if it doesn't happen, then maybe you don't want it as much as you've allowed yourself to be convinced that you need to do it. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I'm not trying to come across as too much of a penis here, but, just trying to look out for your best interests too. Free speech is why. Biggest playoff disappointment, the Nets, Sixers, or the Suns? I think it's the Suns. They were the defending conference champions. They had the best record in the league, and they got bounced before they even made it to the Western Conference Finals. To me, that's the biggest disappointment out of the three. At the King, MOJ, how long does polls in the regime have to get it right? Probably 3 to 4 years. That should be the minimum length of time that they're given, unless it's a total train wreck. Minimum 3 to 4 years. Shit, Ryan Pace got 7. I could assume that Ryan Poles probably gets at least that long. Matthew Kleinschmidt, how do you maintain hope and a sense of wonder adventure during the darkest of times? Not only in your personal life, but also when the world as a whole seems so frustratingly, comically, repetitively bleak. That is a fantastic question, my good sir. I don't know so much about the sense of wonder and adventure. I wish, frankly, that I had more of that. I wish I had more of that childhood innocence and naivete, if you will. Hope. I think the hope comes into, having a vision for where you want to be and having goals that help align with that vision, that give you a clear path to achieving that ultimate vision. I think sometimes we get too caught up in the shit that we can't control and focused on those outside influences. And yeah, absolutely. If you're on the internet, you're on social media, it's impossible not to get caught up in that or not get sucked into that. But you have to do the best you can. And a couple of things that may help. Sometimes life is better when you live by the old George Carlin motto of, it's just really better if you really don't give a shit. Then number 2, I would say, when you assume that the world is fundamentally bad and fucked up with fucked up people in it, it's less of a problem to be able to deal with the world. Because you say, like when I look at the mass shooting of Buffalo, for example, I say, well, yeah, that's about who we are as a society, and we really should stop acting like we give a shit, because if we did give a shit, we would actually do more to prevent those types of things, make our country, make our world safer, but we don't do anything about it. We just take to our tweeting devices and tweet about it. So we clearly don't give a shit. It's important to remember that. It's very important to remember that. You can rage about it all day long, but we clearly don't give a shit, and we need to stop pretending like we do. So I think the hope just comes in more of like, have that vision and set your goals to work towards that vision and focus on that. OG Io DeSunmu fan. Should the Bulls trade for Rudy Gobert? Would he be an upgrade, especially defensively, over Vucevic? Absolutely. Would he provide a presence down low that this team needs? Absolutely. I haven't fully convinced myself yet that it'd be down for it. Unless you were talking about some big type of package that involved like Vucevic and Levine and somebody else to bring in both Donovan Mitchell and Gobert, then we're talking. Other than that, I don't know. Because now you're talking about a Gobert, would you even be able to have him on the floor late in games? Like, I don't know about all that. So he'd be an upgrade over Vucevic, but at twice the price. And, what's the impact there? Would you not even be able to play him late? The Rooster asks, why does the U.S. not have any actual gun restrictions? Well, to say they don't have any gun restrictions is bullshit. We could debate and argue what level of gun restrictions there are or should be, how effective they are or are not. But to pretend like there are no gun restrictions whatsoever is a total false premise. That is bullshit. And if we want to have informed, educated, philosophical, logical debates around guns, gun safety, gun control, like, we need to avoid hyperbolistic questions like this one. I'm just saying, like, to say that we don't have any restrictions at all, because you were implying that if we had no actual gun restrictions, that an 8-year-old could go into the toy store and buy an AR-15, and that's just not true. Like, let's be better than that. Fan 420. Are you at all concerned with alt-right zealots potentially winning the presidency in 2024? What else can Democrats do to restore faith in voters? As far as the alt-right zealots, yeah, it's a little concern, but I mean, didn't you already kind of have that in Trump anyways? Like, there was a lot of distraction and a lot of noise. But for most of his presidency, he was highly ineffective and barely did anything. That's why I don't understand, like, the Trump cult that thinks he was some great president. What the fuck are you talking about? He did so little. Like, how does that become greatness? Like, that's just psychosis. That's absolutely 100% psycho behavior. That's about as psycho as believing that Elon Musk supports and defends free speech. Like, you have to be a fucking moron to believe that. But like alt-right zealots potentially winning the presidency, no, I would be more concerned about somebody like a DeSantis winning, who aligned with some of those philosophies and thinking of the alt-right zealots as you're talking about, but can do it in a more polished and cleaner way. Because that's the type of guy that will actually be able to get stuff done, whereas Trump was largely ineffective in doing so. What can Democrats do to restore faith with voters? Like, actually run on issues that people give a shit about, actually do something about those issues that land on their side of the fence, that people by and large fucking support. Decriminalization of marijuana, meaningful criminal justice reform, $15 an hour minimum wage, some form of student loan debt forgiveness. These issues poll incredibly popularly with a wide swath of American people, and yet every time the Democrats talk about getting in power, they're going to do something, they don't do shit. Republicans at least know how to be in charge. Because when they get the leadership mantle, they do shit. Now a lot of it is bad, dumb, and toxic shit for us as a society, but they know what the fuck they're doing. They know how to lead. Democrats are fucking pussies. So this isn't about, well, some low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit is what they should fucking be doing. Like you were elected to govern, actually fucking govern. Have a goddamn backbone. Have some spine, you twitless motherfuckers. That's how you restore faith with the voters. Go big or go fucking home. The Democrats, those dumbasses, want to sit there and fucking play the middle ground, and we're going to appeal to the right wing. The right wing ain't wanting to play that game. You gotta know the game you're playing, assholes! Stop trying to appeal to a side that's going to sit there and call you labels like communists and socialists and fascists, no matter what the fuck you do! That is idiotic! It's so stupid! If you're actually going to be called socialist, then you might as well enact some socialist policies where you could actually have some type of thing that you could point to and say whether it was successful or not. It's just fucking ridiculous. The Dems are supposed to be so goddamn smart, then why do they become such goddamn dumb idiots whenever they actually are in power? That's how they restore faith with voters. They're supposed to be the party of the people. Let's not pretend like the Republicans ever present themselves as the party of the people. That's bullshit. The populist, corporate, fascist assholes. But at least they stay true to who they are. Democrats will say one thing on the fucking campaign trail, and then as soon as they get in power, they lose all their nuts. Go big or go home. And 420 Investor Boy closes us out with this question. Does Elon buying Twitter and putting the open source code on GitHub pose a greater threat to free speech on social media platforms? I want to be very clear here. I'm not the most tech-savvy guy. So when you talk about open source code on GitHub, I'm going to admit, and it's okay to admit sometimes that we don't know shit. I don't fucking know enough about that to have a well-formulated opinion. So respectfully, I'm going to refrain from an opinion on that portion of your question. As I referenced a moment or two ago, that just because an Elon Musk may politically align with you, you are a fucking idiot. You are. You just are a fucking idiot. You are poorly informed. You are putting your lack of intelligence out there. If you actually buy into this bullshit from Elon Musk that he's going to defend free speech on Twitter. There are a lot of arguments you can make about what he's talking about actually reducing free speech on the social media platform. But to sit there and think that anything in his history suggests that he supports or defends free speech, does that mean he's going to release anybody from an NDA that they've made him sign before? Does that mean he's going to rehire people that he previously fired for speaking up and whistleblowing? I could go on and on and on and on and on. The consistent lack of disclosure of key information to the SEC and other places. I gotta go on and on and on and on. There's absolutely nothing in Elon Musk's history to suggest that he is forthright or honest or a defender of free speech. It is a perfect example of allowing your bias to let you buy into bullshit. That is bullshit. And you should be better than that. Of course, as a society, we are not. We absolutely are fucking not. But any of you that are going to go to the comments to say that Elon Musk is a defender of free speech and I'm wrong, you are just choosing to out yourself as a fucking moron. Elon Musk, he defends free speech. He does? Since when? The fuck are you talking about? Well, did be so what he said. Because he would never fucking lie, right? Never mind the fact that it should be concerning that the world's wealthiest man, even though that's built on a fucking throne of bullshit and stock market lies, it should be just concerning in general that somebody with that much power, wealth, and influence would be able to buy such an instrumental social media platform with really no oversight or regulation. That should be fundamentally very concerning. And to the dumb dicks that are actually behind this, not only are they showing their stupidity because they buy into this free speech nonsense, yes, let's give the fucking artificial intelligence guy hands on data for hundreds of millions of users so he can leverage it for AI shit. You really don't fucking think sometimes, do you assholes? So fucking stupid! I'll be surprised if the human race lasts another 100 years. We are so fucking dumb. And frankly, we deserve whatever the hell happens to us. Because it will be of our own doing. Elon Musk buying Twitter. You'll notice he's trying to back out of it now. And that whole fake account bullshit. If you buy that, you're an even bigger fucking moron than I could have imagined. Oh, I was trusting them for the 5%. You can do a damn Twitter audit of your own fucking account, Elon! You had like 15, 20% fake users. Fucking flimsiest ass, weakest ass bullshit excuse to say basically, I don't know if I have the funds to do the fucking deal myself and I'm getting cold feet about it. I talked all that good shit and now when I got to nut cutting time, step up to the plate. Guess what? I got cold feet and this doesn't feel like a very good idea. God, so fucking stupid. If you take nothing else away from this Q&A, please understand that as a species, we are really fucking dumb. And if you're looking at yourself and saying individually, well, I'm not dumb. Maybe you're not. A number of you are. A number of you are not. But as a group collectively, we are fucking morons. Oh, Elon Musk defends free speech. Ah, fuck out of here.